Today we'll be wrapping up season number 5 of the Miami Marlins franchise here on MLB The Show 23. And we're going to try to win our very first division title within the history of this team. The Marlins have been around since the early 90s. That's roughly 35 years. And this team has done everything. We've won championships. We've seen players win MVPs. The Marlins organization over their 35-ish year history has done everything a team can do except for win the division, and hopefully today we change that. Right now we're in a tight race with the New York Mets, who we just had a season series with in Queens during the last episode, in which we only won one of the 3 games, and all 3 of those matchups were very different in their own unique way. In the first game, Edward Cabrera threw a no-hitter. He had a perfect game go into the 7th, and if not for a bad call resulting in a walk and then an error in the 9th inning from Isaac Stu, he would have thrown a perfect game, which is absolutely remarkable. That is without a doubt his Cy Young moment, if you will, as he is the heavy frontrunner to win the award. The following day, we lost 1-0. The pitching was really good, especially the bullpen, but our offense did not produce. In the final game, our offense started off red hot. After scoring nothing the previous game, we led 7-1 going into the middle of the 3rd, and then proceeded to be outscored 9-0 the rest of the game to lose. So the Mets are able to make up a little bit of ground on us, and we are now only half a game ahead of them. The Mets are currently the number 1 wild card, and neither us or them are in any serious danger of missing the playoffs. But obviously, we would love to get that division win and give ourselves likely home field advantage at least through the first round, if not for maybe the entirety of the playoffs. We play against the Nationals, the Reds, and the Braves twice, while the Mets have the Phillies twice, the Pirates, and the Cardinals. I think in terms of scheduling, we probably have the advantage. Atlanta's a really good team. They're fighting for a wild card, and that's going to be tough. But the Reds and the Nationals are both eliminated. However, unlike the Mets, we are super banged up. Max Meyer and Bo Bichette are out for the regular season. Luis Robert and Woody Landry are still out for a little while. And because of that, we've called on young minor leaguers to come in and play key roles for us down the stretch. Guys like James Wood, Adael Amador, and Kevin Alcantara have all started in super meaningful games for us. Obviously, the big storyline with this team, though, is the pitching. Edward Cabrera and Sandy Alcantara might be the 2 best pitchers in baseball. They're 1st and 2nd in the National League in pitching WAR by a landslide, and their pitching WAR is higher than anybody in baseball. It feels like we win every game those 2 guys pitch, but it feels like we lose most games that they don't pitch, which is obviously kind of a problem, because come playoff time, we're not going to have access to Sandy Alcantara and Edward Cabrera every game. We're going to briefly cover the minor leagues as well and go over the playoffs there. But right now, to start, our focus will be on the big league club as we simulate through this first series against the Washington Nationals at home. The Nats are not a good team. We should hopefully perform well. I made a switch to the pitching schedule. We're having Tyrell Berry start a day ahead. I wanted Edward Cabrera to pitch against the Braves rather than the Nationals, so that's why we're doing that. Ryan Poles breaks his leg. He'll be out for the season. He was another young guy who we've called upon in AAA to get playing time, and, well, sure enough, he gets hurt now. So we're going to call up Khalil Watson, who obviously was pretty bad in the minors last year, but he's played honestly really well this year, and we're going to give him some games here in the big leagues to show what he's got. We swept the Nationals while the Mets took 2 against the Phillies, so we're back up by a game and a half, making up the ground that we lost in our series against them. Now we've got Atlanta on the road for 4 games. The Braves are the first team out of the wild card race. They need all the wins they can get, and I think this is going to prove to be a really tough series. We know what this Atlanta team is capable of, so I'm going to simulate up until the final game. Woody Landry is back healthy. That's good news. We're going to send James Wood down to AAA. Wood we acquired midseason for the Nationals. I think he's honestly played pretty well since we acquired him. Luis Robert also will be activated off the injured list, and so Khalil Watson's time in the majors will come to a quick close. He played in 1 game and was honestly pretty good, going 2 for 4, but Adael Amador has been playing really well, and it was going to be one of those 2 who is sent down. We only won 1 game against Atlanta. Take a guess at which one we won. In the Edward Cabrera start, he threw for 8 innings, allowing 2 runs. I think this is the first time in like a month that he's allowed a run. The Mets have started off 2-0. So they make up a game and a half on us, and we are now tied within the division with just 7 games left to go. So that means We definitely need all the wins we can get, and that starts with this fourth and final game against Atlanta. I picked out this game because of the pitching matchup with Sandy Alcantara and Nestor Cortes. The Braves need to make up 2.5 games on the Giants, who are currently the final wild card. I think us and the Mets being here makes it look confusing, but currently the Giants are one of the 3 wild card teams. So the Braves are the first out. They cannot afford to really lose any more games the rest of the way. So you best believe Atlanta's going to be giving it all they got. So because of that, we've got to get ourselves prepared here, especially after losing 2 in a row. Unlike the last 2 games, though, we do have an elite pitcher on the mound for us, so that's certainly good news. With the Mets tying us in the division, we've got to play our best baseball down the stretch. And luckily, out of our next 7 games, 4 of them, we will have either Sandy Alcantara or Edward Cabrera start, which is a big deal. We should presumably go 4-0 in those games. It feels good to have Woody Landry back in the lineup. No Luis Robert, though. Even though he's on the injured list, he still needs another day or 2 to be healthy. Let's take a look at Nestor Cortes. He's a great pitcher here for the Atlanta Braves. They call him the Hialeah Kid. He's got that fastball. If you know, you know. But in all seriousness, Nestor Cortes is a good player. ERA barely above 3. And he's a lefty, which should make things interesting. Brian De La Cruz leads things off. He hits this one high and deep in the left center. And that ball is out of here. A leadoff home run for Brian De La Cruz. His 30th of the year. And the Marlins are on the board immediately as it's 1-0. De La Cruz has been on a tear recently. In that series against the Mets, he was dominant. He went deep 3 times, and the Mets could not keep him off base. He's been unreal here in the month of September, continuing his dominant stretch. Alec Bohm up now for Miami. That should have been a walk. Instead, he swings at it, and it's going to turn out to be an infield single. So he's on first base regardless. Maybe it wasn't pretty, but it will be ruled as a hit. And so Bohm is aboard. That'll bring up Woody Landry playing for his hometown Atlanta Braves here, as this one is popped up into center. Harris chasing after it, and it's going to drop. So the Marlins have gotten 2 hits in a row, and I feel like both of them have been very lucky. Pitches well outside the zone, not hit all that well. But, hey, they've dropped for hits. That'll bring up the Rookie of the Year frontrunner, Isaac Stu. Rips it down the line and fair. Past the glove of Riley. Bohm looks to score. Landry to third. He is safe. And the Marlins lead 2-0. It's an RBI single for the rookie Isaac Stu. So Miami is now ahead 2-0 with runners on the corners for the rookie shortstop Ariel Amador. He crushes this ball into center field. Harris at the track, at the wall. It is caught. Great play by Harris. Now that will score a run off of a sacrifice fly, and it's now 3-0. This is just Amador's 6th big league game, but the kid looks like he belongs at this level. Let's take a look at Sandy Alcantara getting the start here for the Marlins. Much of the attention has been on Edward Cabrera, but Sandy Alcantara has been almost just as good. He's currently in 3rd place for the Cy Young Award, although his day does not start off too well. The Marlins lead this game off with a homer, and the Braves will do the same. Money Mike, Michael Harris, the second, his 21st of the year, and so that'll make it a 3-1 ball game. Alcantara looking to pick things up as he gets Ronald Acuna to check swing on the sinker, and we go into the second. Offense looking good early so far as De La Cruz singles into center field, his second base hit of the game. He continues to just dominate. Pitchers cannot stop him. They can only hope to contain him. Full count now for Jazz Chisholm. He's honestly been playing really well over the last month or so. Haven't talked about him too much recently, but he's been really good. But he goes down on the outside slider. Good pitch by Cortes, lefty on lefty crime, and we go bottom 2. It's Austin Riley who swings and misses at the high fastball. Both pitchers are looking pretty good right now after their slow starts. Jake Fraley now rips it down the line. It's caught by Alec Bohm, who makes a great play on the ball. Let's go to the 3rd inning now. 2 gone here for the rookie Isaac Stu, who drove in a run in his last at-bat, and he singles it here into right for his 2nd hit of the game. Isaac Stu continues to be a really solid piece for this offense. One of the most dependable hitters on the roster at just 19 years old. Ariel Amador will strike out, though, and that'll wrap up the top of the 3rd. Nestor Cortes has looked a lot better over these last couple of innings as we go bottom 3. Michael Harris hits a blooper into right center. It'll drop for a hit. That's Atlanta's first base runner since Michael Harris hit the home run in the 1st inning. He's 2 for 2, while the rest of the team is 0 for so far. And that includes Ozzie Albies, who goes down looking on the sinker. Harris was looking to swipe second there, but it's not going to matter as it remains a 3-1 game. Let's see if either team can get back on the board here in the 4th. Nick Fortes, the catcher, up for the Marlins. Good to have him healthy after missing most of the summer with an injury. And he will draw a walk. So the Marlins get a base runner here with 1 away. And so the Braves are going to make a pitching change, bringing in Marcus Stroman. Cortez's pitching count was getting high. He's allowed a few too many base runners, although he has been pretty steady since the first inning. But they trust Stroman here, the veteran, to get them out of the jam. It's Ha-Seong Kim, who rips it down into left field for a base knock. 112 off the bat for Ha-Seong Kim. And the Marlins have 2 aboard for guess who? It's Brian De La Cruz, who's 2 for 2 today with a dinger, but he strikes out on the slider. Good pitch there by Stroman for out number 2. Big opportunity now for Jazz Chisholm, and he finds himself ahead in the count here, 3-1. Chisholm looking for a good pitch. That's not it. He'll take his walk. Oh, God, you know what that means. The bases are loaded, which means the inning is over for the Marlins. But there's one exception to that rule, and Alec Boehm is the exception. Singles into center. 1 run scores. The second looking to join. Chisholm safe at third. It's now 5-1. The Marlins obviously suck with the bases loaded, except for when it's Alec Boehm at the plate. The last 3 instances of the Marlins actually scoring with the bases loaded, I feel like have been with Alec Boehm up. Bottom 4, here's Ronald Acuna going down on the slider. Good pitch by Alcantara, who actually has run support today. He usually doesn't. The offense sucks in games that he pitches, but today they've woken up as he strikes out Pete Alonso. Looking to strike out the side, he does. It's the rookie Mike Gonzalez, currently in second place for the NL Rookie of the Year race, only trailing fellow first baseman Isaac Stu. Speaking of Stu, he leads things off here in the 5th, and he'll take a walk, reaching base in each of his first 3 plate appearances of the day. That'll bring up Ariel Amador, the young Dominican shortstop who grounds us 1 to third. Braves look to turn 2, and they do. It's a 5-4-3 double play. So the Braves retire both guys, and we go bottom 5. Here's Sean Murphy. Weakly hit. Amador just barely unable to make the play, and that'll go for a single. That's Atlanta's first base runner other than Michael Harris of the entire game. So that'll bring up the number 9 hitter, Rodolfo Castro, and he will look at the curveball. That's called a ball. It was very clearly in the zone. Look at pitch 3. Obviously a strike. He would foul off his next 4 pitches, and then he would ground this one to second. Ha-Seong Kim will make the play, and Sandy Alcantara makes it through another strong inning as the Marlins lead it 5-1. Let's go top 6. Here's Fortes up the middle. That'll go for a base knock. Fortes reaches base in each of his last 2 at-bats, and the Marlins start the inning with an early runner. We'll see if they can add to this lead. You can never be up by too much against an offense like the Atlanta Braves, let me tell you. As it's Brian De La Cruz who hits this ball high and deep at a straightaway center. Harris at the track, at the wall. It is out of here! Brian De La Cruz is him! Second homer of the game, 31st of the year. Teams cannot stop him. He's been one of the best offensive players in baseball through the month of September. My God, has he been awesome as of recent. Today no different. 3 for 4, 2 homers, 3 RBIs. Stroman's taken out of the game. He'll be replaced by Darius Vines, who would make it through the rest of the inning pretty easily. Bottom 6, Michael Harris grounds out. Sandy Alcantara did the unthinkable. He actually got Michael Harris out. Impressive stuff. We'll see if Alcantara can make it through the inning as he faces off against Ronald Acuna. The 2-2. He goes down looking on the slider. 6 innings of 1-run ball here for Sandy Alcantara. If this game was really close, I think the Marlins would try to get him for 2, maybe 3 more innings. But since it's 7-1, you might get 1 more inning out of him realistically. Here's Sanchez in the 7th. Flies out to center. So the Marlins will go down 1-2-3. Good inning for Darius Vines. And we go bottom 7. The middle of the order due up for Atlanta. That starts with big meat Pete Alonso. He singles into right center, and the Braves get just their 4th hit of the game. Sandy's going to hang in there. The Marlins got some guys loosening up in the bullpen as Austin Riley now singles. What do you do here if you're the Marlins? Sandy Alcantara's feeling good. He's in a groove. But you're up by 6, and he's allowing a couple hits now. Ultimately, the Marlins are going to keep him in as this one's a grounder to first. Woody with the nifty flip to Alcantara, a no-looker. Does this guy think he's Patrick Mahomes? Runners in scoring position, 2 away for Murphy, and he's going to hit this one into center. This ball's going to drop. 1 run scores. A second looks to join, and it's 7-3. The decision to keep Sandy Alcantara in the game proves to be a bad one. He'll be removed here after allowing the 2-run single, and he'll be replaced by Reynaldo Lopez, who's been so reliable and steady out of the bullpen this year. In 40 innings, he's got an ERA at 2.48, and he's been super reliable since we signed him in the very first offseason of the series. Castro grounds it to short. Amador flips it over to Ha-Seong Kim, and the Marlins get out of the inning. So the Braves do get 2 back. They still trail 7-3. Let's move into the 8th inning now as Chris Flexen comes in for the Braves with an ERA hovering at around 4, just under, at 3.97. Kevin Alcantara comes into the game as a pinch hitter, and he's going to rip this one into the gap, and that'll drop, likely for extra bases. Alcantara's been really good, whether he's been in AAA or the big leagues this year, as he's going to head for 3, and he is going to be out of there. Alcantara was originally only going to go for a double, but it looked like the throw in center from Harris was a little bit off the line. He thought he could get to 3, and he's unsuccessful. De La Cruz strikes out, and so Flexen makes it through the 8th as we go to the bottom half of the inning. Harris with his 3rd hit of the game, although he gets an unlucky bounce off of the foul wall, so he's only going to be able to get a single rather than trying for extra bases. That'll bring up Ozzie Albies. Grounds it to first. What a play by Landry. He's just going to get the 1 out at first, but still, woo! What a play by Woody Landry. Pete Alonso strikes out, and so Lopez makes it through the 8th. The Marlins appear to have a pretty comfortable 7-3 lead. Let's go bottom 9. And it's Andres Pena, last year's first-round pick, in for the save. He's only pitched 3 2/3 innings so far, but he's been pretty good. And sure enough here, he retires the side as Fraley grounds it out to Ariel Amador, who's moved over to second. As the Marlins get the win 7-3, and they end up splitting this series on the road with Atlanta. Considering this Braves team is good and they need all the wins they can get, I'll take a split. It could have been a lot worse. I would have rather we had not gone 0-2 in the games that Cabrera and Sandy didn't pitch, but at least we went 2-0 in the games that they did pitch. The offense was really solid. We definitely hit in spurts. Alec Boehm was pretty good, 2 hits, 2 RBIs. Brian De La Cruz, obviously the main star of the show. He went deep twice with 3 hits, driving in 3 runs. Sandy Alcantara had a really good start, and then the bullpen did a good job of finishing it off. Other than Michael Harris and Sean Murphy, the Braves' offense was pretty lackluster. Their pitching was okay. It wasn't horrible. The bullpen especially was pretty good, but obviously not enough to get the win. So a good win here over Atlanta. As for the New York Mets, they ended up losing the last game of the series against the Pirates. So now we lead by a game with 6 to go. We've got the Reds and the Braves at home for 3 games each. But before we go over those, I want to go over the minor leagues real quick. The AA team is going to miss out on the playoffs by a game, while the AAA team has 1 more game left, and their fate hasn't been figured out yet. They've got 1 more regular season game, which they win, beating the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs to win the division title. Both teams had 81 wins going into the matchup. Junior Caminero homers twice, while Fernando Cortez has a good start. Luis Robert officially healthy, while the AAA team is going to have a 1-game playoff against the St. Paul Saints, the AAA affiliate of the Twins. They won the International League West, and then the winner of this game will face off against one of the Pacific League winners in the AAA Championship. So we're going to have at most 2 playoff games with the AAA team. Chris Paddock on the mound against Yuri Perez. I get that Yuri Perez has not been a good Major League player, but he's a really good AAA pitcher. It's a low-scoring game. We lead 1-0. Our only run has been in the first inning, but we would get another here in the 7th. And we'll see if Yuri Perez can finish it off here in the 9th inning. He's going to allow a base hit here to Ethan Wilson, former Marlins prospect. And then Joe Rizzo, another former Marlins prospect, drives him in. It's now 2-1. Joe Shearer looking to finish it off with 2 guys on, and he does. So the Jumbo Shrimp will face off against the Oklahoma City Dodgers. You can take a guess at which team they are affiliated with in the AAA Championship. The lefty Hitoki Nomo's on the mound. He has not had a good month of September, but I have faith in him, and it's another very low-scoring game. No runs here going into the 7th. We're going to bring Adrian Leon out of the bullpen. He allows 2. So we trailed 2-0. Bad inning from Leon. Mercedes makes it through the 8th. We're going to have Joe Shearer pitch the ninth, but the offense has got to wake up. We've scored 2 runs so far in the playoffs. Sabato gets hit by pitch. James Wood is up. He strikes out. Caminero strikes out. And then Reese McGuire is out as well. So the Jumbo Shrimp lose the AAA championship to the OKC Dodgers. Certainly unfortunate there, not what you want to see, but hey, at least they made it after a super close finish at the end of the regular season. We've made it through a few more days in the Major League schedule, and I've got some good news and bad news. The good news is we won our first 2 games against the Reds. The Mets, meanwhile, only won 1 game in their series against the Phillies, scoring 16. We're now ahead by 2.5 games. We're very close to clinching this division and possibly the number 1 seed for good. It's also worth noting that the 6 playoff spots have been decided in the NL. The Braves are out, which should help us for the final series of the year, but the Cardinals are out, and that should help the Mets because they play each other the final series of the year. The bad news, though, is on the injury front. Adael Amador fractured his hand. He'll be out for the season. Amador was playing well enough for me to potentially contemplate having him on the postseason roster. I'm not sure if I would have done it, but now I have my decision made for me. He'll be injured for the rest of the way, and hopefully we'll be back next year. Khalil Watson will take his spot on the big league roster with 4 games to go. We're going to simulate the final game against the Reds. We win 6-4, so we sweep them, and now the magic number is 1. All that needs to happen for us to win the division is A, we don't get swept by Atlanta, and B, the Mets don't sweep the Cardinals. As long as we win 1 game or they lose 1 game, we will win our first division title in team history. So the Marlins will be getting ready here for their final regular season series of the year. 3 games at home against the Atlanta Braves. The Marlins need to win just 1 of these games or have the Mets lose 1 of their final 3 games. And then the Marlins will not only clinch the division, but the number 1 overall seed in the National League playoffs. So there's a lot on the line here for the Marlins, who look to win their very first division title in team history. Let's take a look at both lineups. Regular starters for the most part for the Marlins. They do have Khalil Watson there at the 9 hole, as it'll be Robbie Jones who gets the start, his 5th career start. He's been pretty good so far. 3.55 ERA, 1.14 whip. Presumably, Robbie Jones won't be on the postseason roster, so this will be his final game of the year as he starts with Harris, who flies out to left. It's caught by Stu for the first out. But unfortunately on the play, Robbie Jones hurt his hand. And so after just facing 1 batter, he'll have to be taken out of the game. So definitely not the start the Marlins were hoping for here. They've got to get Jordan Hicks out of the bullpen, who was completely unprepared to pitch this early. I will say the one good thing about this is that the Marlins are probably going to have some bullpen games in the playoffs because they don't have 5 consistent starters. So I guess in a sense, they're going to be able to run a practice bullpen game. It's just that nobody was prepared for that to happen. Hicks gets through the rest of the inning as he strikes out Ronald Acuna. And so the Marlins retire the side with 2 different pitchers, Jones and Hicks, as we go to the bottom of the first inning and we take a look at the young righty Cole Phillips, who has been just dreadful this year. His WAR on the season is a full point lower than that of Yuri Perez. That's how bad he's been. The Marlins are hoping that he can have a good start here to end the season and try to build upon it for next year. With 2 away, it's Isaac Stu. Rips this one into left center field. That'll go for a base hit. Stu looks like he should be locking up the Rookie of the Year award here with just a few games left to go in the year. Woody Landry up now with 2 away, and he's going to hit this one high and pretty deep into center. Harris after it, and he will make the play. So the Marlins get a base runner, but nothing more here in the bottom of the first inning as it remains scoreless. Top 2, Pete Alonso strikes out on the sinker. So far, Jordan Hicks looks really good, all things considered, with him not planning to pitch today. There's a nice play at first base by Woody Landry to snag the ball out of midair for the out. Bottom 2, Kevin Alcantara is up with a full count, pitch on its way from Phillips, and he will draw a walk. Alcantara continuing to really produce here at the big league level, whether it's been in AAA or the majors. He's been really good this season. Now, unfortunately, he won't stay on base because Alec Boehm grounds into an inning-ending double play, and through 2, we remain scoreless. Into the 3rd, here's Sean Murphy, hits this one into the left center gap. That one's going to go for extra bases. Robert chasing after it, but not before Murphy is safe. Sliding at second with a double, and with 1 away, the Braves have a runner in scoring position. It's Murphy, his 23rd of the year. That'll bring up Rodolfo Castro. He strikes out. This time the umpire actually gets the right call as he goes down looking. And Michael Harris goes down looking as well on the slider. So Jordan Hicks, I think, has allowed one base runner through 3 innings pretty much. That's really impressive. Bottom 3, 2 gone, full count for De La Cruz with a weak dribbler to third. Riley looks to make the play, and he does. Scoreless through 3, and you would have expected these offenses to really hit the ball well. The Braves have a bad pitcher in. The Marlins have an unprepared pitcher in, but no, it's been all about the pitching today. Acuna takes a walk here early in the 4th. Alonso, however, strikes out on the fastball. Nice pitch there by Jordan Hicks. 2 away for Mike Gonzalez. Acuna heads for second as Gonzalez singles slowly into center. Acuna's going to head to third, and now there's runners on the corners. Jordan Hicks has thrown a lot of pitches, and again, he wasn't loose before he came into the game, so because of that, the Marlins are going to take him out now. He'll be replaced by Gennaro Miller. Miller has started in 8 games this year, and he's been used as a reliever for 9. The Marlins are hoping maybe he can be a guy they use in the postseason, not just offensively, but possibly out of the bullpen as well. Full count, 2 away here for Riley, and he goes down on the curveball. That would have been an easy ball 4-2. But Riley got completely fooled by the low curve as it remains scoreless going into the bottom of the 4th inning. Jazz Chisholm leads things off. He will take a walk, and the Marlins start the inning with a base runner. We'll see if they can put themselves here on the board. The heart of the order is due up. That starts with Isaac Stu, who got a base hit in his last at-bat, the only hit so far of the entire game for the Marlins. Jazz looks to steal second. He is safe. Stu, meanwhile, strikes out looking. So the Marlins have a runner in scoring position, 2 away now, and that'll bring up the center fielder, Luis Robert, with a full count. Lines this one into left field. Fraley cannot make the play. It bounces out of his glove. Jazz Chisholm scores. Luis Robert safe at second. It's an RBI double. And the scoreless drought is no more as the Marlins take the lead 1-0. That'll bring up Kevin Alcantara looking to do some damage and add to this lead for the Fish. He's behind 1-2, however, and he strikes out on the fastball. Still a very solid inning as the Marlins put themselves on the board with an RBI double by Luis Robert. They lead at 1-0 into the 5th. Here is Murphy. Grounds this one down the line. Going to be a tough play for Bohm. Throw to first is in time. Good defense at the hot corner by Alec Bohm to make the play. 2 gone now for Rodolfo Castro. Grounder up the middle. Khalil Watson looks to make the play, and he does. So the Marlins get through the 5th. Still no runs here for Atlanta as it's 1-0. We'll see if the Marlins can add some runs here in the bottom of the 5th, and it'll be with a new pitcher, surprisingly, as Jared Schuster comes into the game. I feel like this is a mistake for Atlanta. Why not let your young pitcher try to grow? He's had a rough year, but he's having a good game today. Why not throw him out to the Wolves for a couple more innings? I don't really get this call from them. Now, Schuster is looking good in this inning. He will allow a walk here, though, to Khalil Watson. So he is aboard, and that will bring us back to the top of the order. Full count here for Brian De La Cruz, and he draws a walk. That's a tough pitch to lay off, but he does. The Marlins get 2 aboard off of walks, and so that will bring up Jazz Chisholm. Count even at 1-1. Chisholm pops this one up into left field. It's got a chance to drop, but it is caught by Jake Fraley. Solid inning for Jared Schuster, despite walking 2, as it remains a 1-0 ball game through the 5th. Will Atlanta get anything going offensively soon? It's Andres Vina coming into the game. He's been very solid still here in 6 2/3 innings, only allowing 2 runs so far as he starts with the top of the order. It's money Michael Harris, who gets this one to drop in a left field for a base hit, and so Atlanta gets a base runner. We'll see if their star players can come up big and get some runs on the board. Runner on third, 2 away. Alonso strikes out on the sinker. Great pitch there by Vina. He makes it through inning number 6, and it remains 1-0. Bottom 6. 2 gone for Luis Robert. He's driven in the only run today, and he'll take a walk. Schuster hasn't allowed any hits, but he's having a hard time keeping the ball in the strike zone. That's 3 walks he's allowed. The Marlins as a team only had 3 hits all day. Make it 4. Kevin Alcantara with a single into center field, 105 off the bat, as he reaches base for a second time today. 2 runners on, 2 away. Big opportunity here for Alec Bohm, the best clutch hitter on the team, I would say. Hits it to short. What a play! Rodolfo Castro saves a run, maybe 2, from being scored. An incredible leaping grab by Rodolfo Castro, showing off the hops. Look at that one again. Just an absolute beauty as it remains 1-0, and we move into the 7th. Andres Vina can be used as an innings eater, so he's going to stay in the game against fellow rookie Mike Gonzalez, who strikes out on the slider for the first out of the inning. Swing and a miss there. That'll bring up Austin Riley. 1-2. Swing and a miss on the changeup. Vina's looking really good here. Can he strike out the side? It's Jake Fraley. Count is even at 2-2. Swing and a miss. Andres Vina retires the side. 3 Ks in a row. That's only good in baseball and in nothing else. The shutout survives here from the bullpen as we go bottom 7. Jacob Berry into the game as a pinch hitter, replacing Austin Wells, who got the start at catcher. And Berry hits this one high and deep into left center. Back at the track, at the wall. It bounces over the fence for a ground rule double. So the Marlins start the inning with a runner on base. We'll see if they can get anything out of this opportunity. 2-2 count here for Brian De La Cruz. He's been pretty quiet today, but he gets plunked. So De La Cruz is aboard for a second time here with a walk and now a hit by pitch. Schuster has allowed multiple base runners in all 3 innings he's pitched today. This time it might come back to bite him as Chisholm singles into center. Berry rounds third, heads home, but then heads back to third, knowing that he probably would have been out. Smart decision. But now the bases are loaded, and unfortunately Alec Bohm isn't up anytime soon. Not good news here for the Marlins. Isaac Stu just can't put the ball on the ground, and he puts the ball on the ground. But Pete Alonso bobbles it. Instead of turning 2, they only get the 1 out at first. So if a runner from third, that's Berry, he scores. It's now 2-0, and there's 2 runners in scoring position. Now that the bases aren't loaded, maybe the Marlins can do something here. Big opportunity for Woody Landry. He's been quiet today, 0 for 3. Landry skies this one up into center. Very catchable ball for Harris. And he comes down with it. So the Marlins add another run. They definitely could have gotten more, but at least they were able to drive in 1. They lead at 2-0 here as the back end of the bullpen looks to finish this game off. It'll be Camilo Duvall coming out of the Marlins bullpen here for the 8th. Duvall, of course, has had an up-and-down season. We've gotten the good, the bad, and the ugly out of Camilo Duvall, who's been a little bit inconsistent, but we know at his best, he is one of the best. So he'll face off against Ozzie Albies. There's a runner on first, 2 away, and Albies singles it into center field. That ball rolling slowly, but everybody's going to hold up. So there's 2 runners in scoring position and 2 away. Quite the opportunity at hand for Ronald Acuna Jr. Launches it into left center. Robert can only watch it fly. 3-run shot for the Braves. Atlanta avenges the shutout, and they take a 3-2 lead. Acuna with home run number 26 on the year, and the Braves are ahead 3-2, looking to spoil the fun in South Beach. Big swing for Ronald Acuna, and from there, Duvall's taken out of the game. Johan Duran is going to have to come in a little bit earlier than the Marlins would have hoped for in a non-save situation. They're hoping that Duran can pad the bleeding, if you will, as Alonso hits this one well into right. Alcantara chases after it. He makes the play. Big inning for the Braves, though. They take the lead with a 3-run blast by Ronald Acuna Jr. Into the bottom of the 8th now. It's time for the back end of the Braves bullpen to look to finish it off. We'll start with Alex Reyes, who has an ERA at 2.55. He'll face off against Jesus Sanchez, coming in off the bench. Rips it into the gap. Sanchez, the spark plug, with what looks like a double. He'll make it safely into second. Sanchez is at his best, ironically, in pinch hit opportunities coming in off the bench. Obviously, once we get to the playoffs, he's going to be too good not to start. But it is worth noting, if he wasn't to start for some reason, he is really good as a pinch hitter. That'll bring up Alec Bohm, Mr. Clutch. Count is 2-1, and Bohm pops it up, slams the bat in frustration as it is caught at first base by Pete Alonso. 2 away now for Jacob Berry, who had a pinch hit double and scored in the previous inning, and he's going to pop this one up into left field. Fraley should get it, and he will. So the Braves get out of the inning. They lead it 3-2, and we'll see if they can finish off the job here in the 9th inning up by 1. Gonzalez leads it off. He strikes out on the slider. Great pitch by Johan Duran. 2-2 now for Austin Riley, and he goes fishing on the 12-6 curve. Duran's got some nasty pitches, and he's been a little bit inconsistent since being acquired at the trade deadline. Griffin Jackson, that same deal, has also been pretty inconsistent, but Duran does strike out the side. It's Fraley swinging and missing at once again the 12-6. So we'll go to the bottom of the ninth inning. It is a one-run game, and the closer Ryan Helsley is in for the save. Helsley is one of the best in the business. He won the NL Reliever of the Year award a season ago, 40-43 in save ops with an ERA of 1.41. He is really good. Aurelvis Martinez enters the game as a pinch hitter for Watson, and he is ahead in the count early, 3-1. Martinez into right field. That's a base hit. The tying run is on base, and the winning run is at the plate. It's the top of the order. We'll start with Brian De La Cruz. A Brian De La Cruz walk-off dinger for the division would be pure cinema. The streets need this. 2-2 count here from Helsley to De La Cruz, and he's going to hit this one sharply into right center. It might drop. It does not. I don't know why Acuna backhanded it, but he makes the catch for out number 1. That'll bring up Jazz Chisholm, who is at his best with runners in scoring position. So because of that, we're going to look to have Aurelvis Martinez steal second. Throw from Murphy to second base is in time! They got him! Martinez is unsuccessful stealing. Now there's 2 away, nobody on base, and Jazz Chisholm's down to his final strike. Count is full, pitch on its way here for Ryan Helsley. And Jazz swings and misses. The Braves win it 3-2. The Marlins should still be able to clinch the division, but unfortunately they won't do it today. The Mets would end up winning their game here against the Cardinals, so the division still has not been won. We lost today because of the offense. Atlanta really did not hit the ball well. They had nothing going until the 8th inning, but they cut a couple hits together, and then Ronald Acuna sent a tank into left center field. We got a lot of base runners on, 8 hits, 5 walks. The problem is, as it always is with this team, there was no clutch gene. The bullpen outside of Camilo Doval did fantastic in relief of Robbie Jones, who got injured during the first at-bat of the game. Robbie Jones' injury is not serious, but since he's not going to play the rest of the year and probably not play in the playoffs, we're going to put him on the 15-day injured list just so we can get an extra roster spot to call somebody up. That somebody will be Joe Shearer out of AAA. We might look to get him 1 or 2 more opportunities to pitch in the big leagues. So with the Mets beating the Cardinals 7-3, the deficit within the division is only at 2 games. Now, lucky for us, Sandy Alcantara is pitching today, and Edward Cabrera will pitch in the next game. We've just got to win one of these, and we'll win the division. So the Braves get a couple runners aboard. They can't do anything. They've got Spencer Strider on the mound as Jazz Chisholm goes yard. It's 1-0. In the bottom of the second, we will get some runners on. The bases are loaded with nobody out. Dear God. However, Brian De La Cruz hits a salami, and after a Jazz Chisholm double, Strider is yanked out of the game. It's 5-0. The Braves get some runs, though. A solo homer makes it 5-1. But other than that, Sandy's been pretty solid despite allowing quite a few base runners. Still 5-1 in the 5th. We get another homer from Woody Landry. Jesus Sanchez drives in a run off of the double. He's now 3 for 3, and it's 7-1. The Marlins are in clear control of this game into the 6th inning. Into inning number 7 now. Sandy's still in. He'll make it through as the offense is continuing to get base runners on. Khalil Watson with a pinch hit single. However, Brian De La Cruz can't drive him in. Sandy will be taken out here in the 8th. He'll be replaced by Griffin Jacks. He retires the side. Bottom 8 now. Karsten Kofod is in, and we're going to start to bring in some substitutions. Jazz Chisholm replaced by Alcantara. He gets a base hit. Stu replaced by Jacob Berry. He hits a 2-run tank, and it's now 9-1. Jesus Sanchez with an RBI triple. That'll drive in a run. It's now 10-1. And then Khalil Watson would bring him in off of a sac fly. So it's 11-1. It's time to win the division, and it's time for Paul Sewald to pitch. Sewald looking to make it through the 9th, not allowing 10 runs. But the Braves will start with a solo homer for Ronald Acuna, who went deep in the win last night. And now he goes deep again, although this home run is a lot less significant. Chris Paul hits a huge 3 to cut the lead to 43. And so the Braves make it an 11-2 ball game. Pete Alonso now hits sharply to third. Berry makes the play. That is out number 1. The Marlins are 2 outs away from clinching the National League East. That'll bring us to the number 5 hitter. That is Mike Gonzalez. And he'll draw a walk. So Atlanta gets a base runner. Austin Riley swinging a miss on the slider. And the Braves are down to their final out. One more. And then the Marlins will clinch their division and the number 1 seed. It's Fraley. Pops it up into foul territory. Jacob Berry is under it. And for the first time in their 35-plus year history, the Miami Marlins have won their division. National League East champs for the very first time. The The NL will run through Miami as the Marlins clinch the number 1 seed in the conference, and they do it in dominant fashion, winning this game by the score of 11-2. No mercy on the Braves after a rough offensive game to start the series. They dropped double digits. We hit the ball unbelievably well today. There wasn't a whole lot Atlanta could have done. They could have had one of their best offensive performances of the year, and looked, it wouldn't have mattered. Spencer Strider didn't make it out of the second inning. The bullpen was a little bit shaky. Some notable performers include Jazz Chisholm, who reached base on all 4 at-bats. He homered. De La Cruz had a salami. Woody Landry went deep. Jesus Sanchez went 4 for 4. He was a homer shy of the cycle. He drove in 2 runs. Berry went deep as well, and Sandy Alcantara had a great start with the bullpen, closing the door. So with that, we are 97-64. The Mets lost their game, so we would have clinched the division anyway, but still pretty cool. What's also pretty cool is not only did we clinch the number 1 seed, but we clinched the best record in all of baseball, period. So that means we will have home field advantage for any series that we play in the rest of the way in the playoffs. We've got one more game, and Edward Cabrera is pitching. Since we have a bye and won't pitch for a while, I want Edward Cabrera to pitch this game like it's any normal matchup, just so he'll be ready for the start of the playoffs. This is Cabrera's final opportunity to show the world that he deserves to be the Cy Young. However, I think really if Cabrera was throwing batting practice today, he would still win the award. He has been the runaway favorite since the All-Star break. Nothing's changing that. But the Cy Young is not the only award he is in play for now. Edward Cabrera has not only entered the MVP conversation, but he is in first place, looking to be the first pitcher in the National League in over a decade to win the MVP. After the no-hitter, I said he needs to be in the MVP talks, and it's finally happened. Sure enough, we lost 3-1, not to the fault of Cabrera. He was awesome. 8 innings, 1 earned run. He only allowed 7 base runners while striking out 11. So we're going to finish the regular season 97-65 as the number 1 seed. It's time to recap the season and go through our studs and duds of the year for both the majors and minors. And of course, the link to the voting poll is down below in the description. So let's take a look at our awards first and foremost, because we have quite a few. And obviously that starts on the mound with Edward Cabrera, who I thought deserved to win the Cy Young last year. He ended up getting second place. This year he gets the job done with Sandy Alcantara in second. Edward Cabrera will also win the National League MVP. Just the second time in nearly 60 years that a pitcher in the NL has won the award. Clayton Kershaw in 2014 being the other. We ended up winning the division by just 1 game. The Braves and Phillies, of course, missing out on the playoffs. If both of those teams were in the AL, they would have been the 2 seed. That's how good the National League was. The highest seeded team in the AL playoffs won 91 games. They would not have made the playoffs in the NL. The Orioles at 85 wins not only won their division, but they're going to get a first round bye as the number 2 seed. Yet the Braves, who had 86 wins, and the Phillies, who have 85 wins, don't even make the playoffs entirely. Cleveland is your number 1 seed at 91-71, while the Mariners tie the Rangers, but they win the West. The 3 wildcard teams, all with 84 wins, being Boston, Tampa Bay, and Texas, with a number of teams close behind. But moral of the story, the National League is significantly better than the American League this year. Here's a look at the stats. I know the lineup looks a little bit odd. I changed it for the last game because I wanted a lot of the younger guys to play. But overall, the team was really good this year, despite battling injuries all season and inconsistencies within the rotation and really struggling through the first half of the year. We somehow ended up with the best record in baseball. After the month of June, we were like 3 or 4 games over 500, and I contemplated selling. And now here we are with home field advantage for the entirety of the playoffs. Let's talk about Edward Cabrera real quick. Him winning the MVP, so well deserved. I thought he was the best pitcher in baseball last year, and he took his game onto another level this year. 6.2 pitching WAR, by far the best amongst all pitchers in the game. Very, very well deserved. He was outstanding. Isaac Stu ended up winning the Rookie of the Year. Luis Robert won a Gold Glove. Bo Bichette finished in 3rd place for the Silver Slugger at shortstop. He would have won it if he was fully healthy. And Brian De La Cruz finishes in 5th for the Silver Slugger in the outfield. Let's go through our studs and duds of the year. And as I always like to do it with star players, I don't like to give them too much credit because star players are expected to perform at a high level. However, I am willing to make certain exceptions. And I think we can all agree that Edward Cabrera is worthy of an exception because he literally won the NL MVP. So Cabrera was our stud of the year last season. He had an outstanding year. I thought he was the best pitcher in baseball. And really the only way he could have been a stud of the year candidate again this year was by being literally the best player in all of baseball, and he did exactly that. Third in baseball in innings pitched, only behind Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen. In terms of whip and ERA, he was right at the top. 26 quality starts, no hitter. The only thing that was human about him is that he allowed 17 home runs, which was still like best or second best in all of baseball, but he only allowed 19 homers in each of the last 2 years, which makes it somewhat normal. 6.3 pitching WAR, 0.7 higher than any other pitcher in baseball. Cabrera was expected to play an elite level, but we could not have expected this. Our second stud of the year candidate is going to be Reynaldo Lopez. This isn't so much for this year in particular, but more so the fact that Lopez has been so steady over the last 4 years, and I feel like he's been one of the unsung heroes of this team, and I feel like he deserves more credit. So I'm going to put him on the stud of the year ballot. I thought he was really solid. 2.38 ERA, 1.2 whip. You could argue that this season was his worst season in a few years, but he was still really good. Our last stud of the year candidate is on offense, and what I've noticed is that we didn't really have many guys who were great, just a lot of guys who were really good. So I decided to give this spot to our most dependable offensive player. As you can see here, we didn't have much star power. Luis Robert, 10th in WAR. Next highest finisher, Bo Bichette, 23rd. OPS, nobody in the top 10. Our highest qualified finisher was Brian De La Cruz in 12th. So what I want to look for here is for somebody who we could always depend on. They never got hurt, and they never were in a cold spell. And there was really only one key player who does both of those things, and that's Brian De La Cruz. He was our most consistent offensive player throughout the year, and I think he deserves this spot. De La Cruz was a stud of the year candidate last year as well. He got second place behind Edward Cabrera, but this year he took a whole nother leap, and he made himself a lot of money this offseason being a free agent. He was third on the team in hits, first in home runs, second in RBIs, despite being used as the leadoff guy down the stretch. In terms of batting average amongst regular starters, he was third. On base among regular starters, third. Slugging among starters, third. OPS among starters, third. Maybe he wasn't the best player here, but in my opinion, he was the most reliable. 3.4 WAR is a career high for him. He was just really, really solid. You know what you're going to get out of him, and I think he absolutely deserves this recognition. Now it's time for our 3 duds of the year, and it can be a little bit challenging finding guys on a 97-win team who were disappointing. Yuri Perez was definitely disappointing, though. The numbers speak for themselves. The guy's been in the big leagues for 4 years, and he hasn't gotten any better. If anything, he's gotten worse. He has just not been good. I don't know how his WAR was positive at 0.1, with his ERA being in the 7s and his whip being, I think, just as high as Edward Cabrera's ERA was. Camilo Doval is our second candidate. I don't think he was as bad as the numbers suggest, but we're paying him to be one of the best relievers in baseball. And while he wasn't awful, he was not that. He struggled early in the year. He was inconsistent down the stretch. He lost the one game today against Atlanta, so I think he earns this spot. Our third dud of the year candidate will be Ha-Seong Kim. I wasn't expecting him to be crazy offensively, but he only hit 231. On-base percentage was like 270, and his OPS was barely above 600, although he does play great defense and had a WAR of nearly 2. Let's look at the minor league stats, and we had a number of guys play well across both AA and AAA, and a number of guys who did not play so well. So looking at our stud of the year candidates, I mostly looked at AAA because the AAA team was better, and we had some guys really perform well. The first of which is Adael Amador. I know the stats aren't going to wow you, 254 average, OPS barely above 700, but I feel like the minor league pitchers in this game are a lot better than the minor league hitters, so offensive stats are deflated. Despite that, Amador hit 15 home runs, is not much of a power guy, slugging nearly 400. He played solid defense with a WAR around 2, and he played really well in the big leagues, albeit it was like 7 or 8 games, but he deserves some credit. Kevin Alcantara is second. He was our most consistent offensive player in AAA, and another guy who played really well in the majors. He only had probably like 50 at-bats if I were to guess, but he hit like 340, and he's a real candidate to be on the playoff roster as our 4th outfielder. He led the AAA team in WAR despite only playing like 80 games here because obviously he was in and out of the major leagues. I think there's a good shot next year he's a regular starter with our full starting outfield being free agents. For the last spot, I thought about Luca De La Cruz, but he drew 22 walks. He's just really bad at that. So I decided to give it to our catcher, Dalton Rushing in Double-A. Again, these numbers aren't going to wow you, but he hit the ball well, 2.4 WAR, playing good defense, and I think he had a really underrated year. As for our dud of the year, Joel Beltran is the first one. Beltran had 2 separate long-term injuries this year, so I don't want to fault him because of that. But the guy's been with our team for 4 years. He's 25 years old now, and he really hasn't gotten better. We invested a very high draft pick into him, and he has been, well, a disappointment, to put it nicely. He had a positive WAR this year, but he hasn't gotten better and no longer looks like the long-term catcher. Jonas Jimenez is second. He played even less than Beltran, but still, for 170 at-bats, these numbers are not good at all, to put it nicely. Our third and final dud of the year candidate is Sandy Gaston, a AAA pitcher. As I mentioned earlier, pitchers in this game in the minors are better than hitters, so I would expect you to pitch well. Hitoki Nomo, I thought about, he was kind of disappointing, but it was really that he just had a bad month of September, whereas Gaston was kind of inconsistent through the whole year. I don't know how he had a 2 WAR. Again, I think this game is way too kind to minor league pitchers and not kind enough to minor league hitters. So that's going to wrap up the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next time around, we'll find out who won the studs and duds of the years, and we'll start with the playoffs. The 3-game series between the Mets and the Giants will determine who we play against in the first round. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.